Hello everyone, my name is Olivier Van Rompaey. I'm here today to talk about the app of the National Lottery. I'm a product manager, mobile app at the lottery. The app is something we have built and we are still building. I'm very proud of it. I like how we've done it. I like the environment in which we could build it, and it's worth to talk about. And I'm here to share some honest stories and real world insights. First, we're gonna play Did You Know? If I would ask you to name a few of the top e-commerce sites, then you probably would say Zalando or Bol.com or Coolblue or Amazon, but you wouldn't name the National Lottery. But in fact, we are the top e-commerce site of Belgium. We have 1.2 million accounts, and yearly we generate 280 million euro. Next to that, we also have a huge retail network. In the States, they have more than 14,000 McDonald's restaurants, and I only know the United States from the movies, and I've never been there. But what I do know is that if I look at the TV, you never really have to go far to find a McDonald's restaurants. Just to make the picture that the National Lottery, we have more than 7,000 point of sales, and that's almost the same amount of supermarkets in Belgium. And the most important thing is that we give back more than 320 million of euros to the society and to good causes. And actually, that's an important pillar of the strategy. That's even the raison d'être of the National Lottery. That's collecting funds for charity. And if I say entrepreneur, you probably think of someone creating new businesses and taking a lot of risk to do so. And you wouldn't associate entrepreneurship and startup with the National Lottery. And that's no shame, you're probably not alone. But I kid you not, those words are written on a wall in our office. It's some sort of company roadmap. It looks like an infographic, also a bit of a fairy tale, and it's a big artwork. It's too big for the place where it's hanging in either way. And it's hanging on a corridor on the 9th floor at the entrance of the biggest meeting room of the National Lottery. And that's where we do the steerco's. And that's where I also have to give updates about our app. And sometimes when I'm not the first on the agenda, I usually have to wait a little bit because I still hear the previous person speaking. And that's the time when I look at the artwork and I see those words. But for me, that narrow definition of an entrepreneur, of someone starting an own business and taking a lot of risks, that's too narrow. For me, the definition should be wider, and a better name would be a self-starter or an ID architect. And this is a photo of my son, and he's the perfect example of self-starting. If I lift him up, or I carry him and I put him back down on his feet, bip, bip, he's gone. And it seems like he always has a plan. And that's also how it went with our app. And why an app? Why does it make sense? Well, this meme summarized it perfectly. All those devices you see now, they're in your pocket. And we have seen it happening. So we lived through the rise of mobile and the rise of the internet, going through digital. It starts in 1995 when the internet opened up, let's say, for the big people. And then in the 90s, you had those big internet companies like Google, eBay, and Amazon, and they still exist. In 2005, you had the social media, Facebook and Twitter. And in 2007, Apple released its iPhone, and that's basically still the version of the smartphones as we know today. And then the 2010s, those were when the platforms arrived, like Spotify and Airbnb and Netflix. And I think also important to mention is the mobile network, of course. So in 2005, you had 3G, in the 10s you had 4G, and we are very close to 5G. So in the 20s, I think the next big wave is going to be about ecosystems and big data and AI and robotization. Actually, the 20s, they kick-started great in terms of digital habits. Thanks to the pandemic, we changed our digital behavior entirely. It's like 2020 is like a time machine for digital habits. and even Microsoft says so. They've seen more digital transformation in the few months during the pandemic than in the past few years. And we also see that. We also see that in our ecosystem. So 55% of the online sales comes through the mobile device. In terms of our app, 2009 compared to 2020, we had an increase of monthly active users of plus 53%. And this means that in 2021, we have almost nearly 450,000 monthly active app users. And usually we don't care so much about the downloads because they only say so much. But here's a cool overview I still want to show you, of course, because we're on top of it. But I must admit that usually that's not the case. And this is an exceptional month. So these are daily rankings from downloads from App Annie. And it's from December. And in December, we have a lot of high jackpots. We have a lot of stuff going on in our ecosystem. And it's usually also a very popular moment when people use the app. But these numbers, they only show that there is a clear demand from our customers to be where they are. And it makes perfect sense in a way. Our app is growing, not only because the initiatives we take, but we're also part of two thriving ecosystems, and that's the ecosystem of Apple and from Google. And what makes them so powerful, that's they have the devices, they have apps attract the users, and users attract businesses. Why did the Windows Phone from Microsoft didn't succeed? They had a brilliant interface. It was slick, it was nice, but eventually they had no apps, and then the users left. Another example of the importance of an ecosystem is the current battle between Epic Games versus Apple. Epic Games is the company behind Fortnite, the popular game, and the game was available in the App Store. And in the game, you can do microtransactions, and then if you do microtransactions via the App Store of Apple, then Apple roams off 30% commission fee. So if you want your app in the Apple Store, and if you want their users, you have to go through Apple itself. And Epic at a certain time, they were fed up with paying the 30%. They say it's unfair. They say that Apple has a monopoly. So they released a version in the store, and they used their own payment system. So they didn't use Apple Pay. Apple found out, and they kicked them out. That's the time when Epic Games, they filed a lawsuit against Apple, saying it has the monopoly over software distribution, and the 30% that they asked, that's too much. And Apple replies that, the 30%, that's the standard rate, and we do control our app so much for the protection of the data and the privacy of our users. It's a very complex discussion, I must admit. It's about making exclusive deals. It's about the definitions of games versus metaverses. It's the definition of a smartphone versus a console versus a computer. It's about marketplaces. It's about privacy and security of the users. Very complex, but what I do understand that it's about money. And the judge who has to judge the case, I don't think he will say that Apple is doing something illegal. But I also think he will admit that Epic is forced to use Apple Pay. And whatever the outcome, it will definitely not be the end of the story. I don't know if you're familiar with our app, but if you're going to play around with it, you're going to notice that in our app, you can't play our games. We are investigating it. You should know that the policies for lotteries are very strict at Apple and Google. It's only very recently that Google changed their policy by allowing play in app for lotteries in Belgium. What we are investigating is how can we keep the user experience for our iOS users and Android users similar. It's about our product portfolio. At Apple, they only accept native technology because they want to control everything in their store. And you should know that a lot of our games that can be played online, they are HTML games. And of course, it's also about the commission fee, yes or no. But we are drifting off. That's a completely different session. We can fill another hour with it. So we're going to go back to the original story and back to we were. That's the rise of digital and the rise of mobile. If I would ask you to look outside the window, what do you see? The world. Yeah, of course you see the world. But there's a great invisible digital layer on top of everything that we don't see. And at the lottery, we realize this. There is no longer an offline world without an online world. There is no more analog without digital. That's a century ago. And that's what makes it so interesting. So instead of putting our full focus on playing an app, we're trying to make the customer experience of the retail player important. So yeah, the customer, that's the most important. That's the absolute focus. It all starts with the customer. And of course, we've seen the change in the behavior. They're going on the internet, they're going mobile. And in the past, it was enough for us just to distribute our games. But now we realize that they demand so much more. So how do you start when you build an app? Well, we did a lot of listening. So we do a lot of user interviews, we do a lot of research, and it means a lot of listening. And the value you get out of those user interviews is phenomenal. During the lockdown, of course, we also did a few interviews, not the old way, but we're doing it through video apps like Zoom and whatever. And usually, how it starts. So first, we would make make the player at ease. We would ask a few questions. The camera is facing the person, but at a certain time, we ask to turn the camera to scan a ticket or to see what they are doing, etc. And then you get really close to the player, even so close that we could see a few people in their underwear, or even people they forgot to turn back the phone on their face, and they showed us their entire apartment. And yeah, sometimes it was messy. You could see the socks lying on the floor. But hey, who are those people anyway who take off their socks and immediately put them in the laundry basket? The advantage of those user interviews is huge. It's like the opposite of Instagram. Instagram is too polished and too self-edited. Users who tell us how we can make their life better is far more attractive and effective for us than assuming how we should do it. Another advantage of those user interviews is you can test things early. If we have an idea to make the life of our players easier, we don't waste time in first building it and then releasing it. No, we ask them, hey, if we do this, would this actually help you in your journey? Would this make your life better? And it's not only building for new things, but also for removing things. And we learned that the hard way. So at a certain moment, we removed a feature from the app where people could generate a combination, and you could save it in the app, and it would simulate gains. And it even went so far that we would even send push notifications like, hey, your saved combination was winning. And that's completely against the idea of us doing communication about winning to actual winners. So what did we do? We removed the feature. It was not used that often. So we said, yeah, it can't do any harm. But the thing is that we didn't validate that. We didn't validate that idea with our players. And it turned out it was not used that often, but it was used by a very important a customer group for us. That's the people who play via subscription. The good news is that we learned something and that we identified an opportunity to make their life better. Once the idea is there, you have to tell the story, spread the word as much as possible to everyone, to your colleagues, to your friends, to your partner. You need a lot of people who believe in you if you want to transform and if you want to innovate. The thing is, if you're alone, you can't build anything. You need people, and if you tell your story to people, that also means listening, And it also means that sometimes you have to iterate your story. The thing is that before you build, you have to make sure that everybody is aligned on the narrative. And that's the narrative of the common sense. And aligning the narrative, that can be the approval process if you want. And usually at a lottery, this is the process. So first we would discuss the idea with our core team, the designers and the coders. And then later we would make a bigger group. And we would ask a few colleagues from marketing, from IT, from retail. If they all resonate the story, then we would bring it to a sponsor board. And if the sponsor board agrees, that's the moment we go to the board of directors, where we actually ask for approval. And here's the story. We spent some time on aligning everyone. And it's a QR code scan. So what does it do? We print a QR code on the game ticket that you can buy in a shop. And with our app, you can scan the QR code and you can see if you win. Why did we build this? Well, the people told us that that is an actual pain point in their customer journey. So they buy a ticket, they look at the TV show, the draw on TV, and after the TV show, we publish the results everywhere. But the thing is that you can only really validate or check your tickets the day after when you go back to the shop. And we wanted to take that moment, we wanted to bring that moment immediately after the draw. So we wanted to bring that customer experience into their own home. And that's, you should know that's very crucial information because it's about a lot of money, it's about sensitive data. And we asked, hey, why don't we just open up, where's the bazooka? But in fact, we built it, and it's the most popular feature of the app. That's one of the reasons why the app is so successful. Of course, once the word is spread, you also have to, build your story. And this is how our team looks like. So let's focus on the core team. We have a core team of architects, we have UX and UI designers, we have people doing functional analysis, we have back-end developers who write APIs, and then we also have the front-end developers who do the native development and also the test engineers. We work in an agile way. We're organized in sprints. The teams, they can organize their sprints. We don't have one giant sprint board where all the teams work together. No, they can do it themselves. But we have regular checkups to align ourselves. We also do demos to each other. We document, we use tools. For example, we use Confluence to put in all the documentation. We have Miro boards, we have Figma boards, and they contain every bit of information. We use Zeppelin to share the designs with the developers. For communication, we use Slack and Teams. We also have Jira to organize the sprints. We use some checklists, and we run smooth, I must say. It took a few years to increase the velocity and have the smooth running of the project. And the key thing of improving the way of working together was communication. Instead of hiding information from each other or not be honest during a meeting, we really opened up their communication, and it really improved the velocity. The main thing, and no matter in what stage you are in when building something, that's you have to keep a beginner's mind. It's having fear of missing out. It's to be curious, to ask questions. And this reminds me of my son. He's 1.5 years old, and it's absolutely fascinating how he can be so amazed by something so simple as a puddle of water, and he can stare at it for many minutes. And if you give him a stick or something, his attention is doubled and he can look much longer. And why is this important? What seems so easy for him is so hard for us. So we get so much drawn into routine. We overlook things we know or we think we know. And the hardest part is to push yourself to start looking into something that you already know and that you already research it with a fresh mind. And we try to research everything. We use what we built, and we also learned that the hard way. Because when you start building stuff, that's also the time when you encounter the nitty-gritty details of things. You can analyze as much as you want. When you start building, there's always going to be something unsuspected popping up, something unraveling during the building phase. That's okay. You have to embrace it. And at some point during the process, this was actually live. That's why I'm a bit ashamed of it. The question came from top management. So the screen on the left, you see the blue line. That's to make clear what's the top and what's the bottom. So the message on top says, you didn't win. And the message at the bottom says, no results available yet. This screen only appears on the lotto days, on the lotto draws, and only in a time frame of 45 minutes when we actually do the draw and when we have the TV show. After the TV show, the results become available and we show the second screen. The thing is that this screen is built by an API call, and we do 2 requests. And the upper part of the screen is an API call, and we immediately get the result after the draw. The bottom part of the screen is a request that we only get information of after the draw. And that's why you can have a discrepancy between the top message that, hey, you didn't win, and at the bottom, there are no results yet. So how did we resolve it? The solution seems easy or simple, but it was definitely not easy to figure out. So what did we do? We completely rebuilt the screen, and we only use one API call to build that screen. In that one API call, we get the information if a ticket is winning or losing. So the only information we show is when somebody actually won. And the second API request we still do, but we give less attention to it on the screen. So we don't assume anymore if a player loses or something. We remove that, and we only make the link to check the details a bit later. And it really took a beginner's mind to figure out. This is one of the last things I want to share with you. Very important thing for me that's showing up. And this photo is taken in the gym where I went to. And it says showing up is half of the result, and half of the result is showing up. And it applies on many levels of life. It's not only on staying fit or in friendship or being part of a community or being a father, but it also applies on your professional life. And the important thing is that you should always show up, do the job. You should do the fun stuff, the not so fun stuff. Things go well, things go wrong, you have to endure it. If story fails, it fails. Those are the moments you can learn, and consider it research for your next story. And also be prepared to change your story. At the lottery, there are many entrepreneurs, and they are grinding, they are building ideas, they are researching, they're also telling stories. They are making things better. And I learn a lot from people who make things better. So maybe you noticed, but during the presentation, I tried to explain that the lottery, there's a lot of digital transformation going on. If you have more questions about the app or something else, don't be afraid to send me an email or connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you want to be part of the digital transformation and gain hands-on experience, have a look at our website and our open jobs. So that's it. Thanks for your attention, and let's see if there are any questions. No questions? Okay. Then thank you all for tuning in, and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.